Hello, welcome to the fourth installment of the On a Trip podcast with me, Aleks Davignon,
and me, Christopher Sabo.
This one we talked. We neither of us went on a trip anywhere.
Nope.
I got a couple coming up, but we wanted to get one in just because we want to stay consistent. And we kind of just like went off on a couple little weird things.
We went on our own trip of thought, and and you're going to come on this trip with us about the trip that we're all on, which is consciousness and humanity. So let's begin.
Yeah, and here we go.
So we want to do our first intro. No. Just me laughing and you say no. On a trip. On a trip. On a trip. On a trip.
Talking. I just went up a flight of stairs and it feels like I've hiked. I don't know why. Maybe I should exercise a little bit more.
This was I kicked that whole.
What did you do?
I was recording you don't want that. You don't want that. Stop. I was recording I got it.
That's okay. I got the force. I can do it. I'm using the force right now to close the curtain and
you really have been listening to
success. Did it. Thank you. That's years of practice.
But no, I was trying to record. This isn't gonna work as an intro. I know we like to do.
What?
Fuck it. No, I kicked that hole in the wall because I was in here. Hi everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to On a Trip podcast. Chris and I are here with a couple cups of Joe and my dog Uzi. And anyway. So what I was saying about the whole, the microphone was in the corner here, and I was trying to sing that song for those credits that I made for Mindframe.
Okay.
And
I
had to do like 19 takes of it because my voice is just so I'm just so unpracticed, and my voice is so shaky, and like so like I try to hit these like higher like falsetto notes and be gentle, but still have enough like chutzpah behind it to like make it drive. And like I was just getting so fucking frustrated. I just went like fuck, bah! I just fucking kicked that fucking.
I was like, that's a definite like mad kick.
It's literally like look, like.
It was you.
Yeah.
His shoe fit in the hole perfectly.
So
we know 100% it was him.
So Chris and I haven't gone on any trips.
We haven't. I mean, I went like you went like we've been like short little trips. Like I did a work trip to like Huntington Beach.
Yeah, we talked about LA.
Yeah, and talked about LA, but that was on the unreleased podcast.
So if you go to we're gonna set up a Patreon page.
Oh no.
Maybe we'll put the drunk one on there.
If you made a certain contribution, you get to hear.
It'd be $1.
$2 at least.
It's okay, $1.50.
$1.50. Compromise.
A lot of relationships.
Relationship values.
But no, I just got like the last one, this is technically the fifth one, but the fourth one, I just got a little loosey-goosey on it, and I got a little incoherent and kind of went on a rant about World War I and the technology development during World War I.
But he didn't make it connect. Yeah, he didn't make
how that was relevant to the internet now.
Yeah, but like the connect, we were at the end of that rant and we were just like, so how does that connect with what we were talking about?
I was like, I fucking Alex Jones the shit out of it.
Aleks Jones.
Yeah. You know what? He seems like an alright guy. He seems like he's trying to do some good, and he's just overwhelmed with information.
Aleks Jones?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't seem like
he seems like he's just overwhelmed with information. I listened to him on Rogan's podcast, and like he got like really.
Aleks Jones, like of InfoWars. Aleks Jones. Okay. Wait.
Him and Joe Rogan have been friends for fucking years.
No, you're shitting me. He was on the Joe Rogan podcast?
Yeah, they used to like go get high together and like go out drinking together.
No.
And shit. Yeah, dude. Can you imagine those two guys fucking together?
That's weird.
Yeah. So they did one with Aleks Jones and Eddie Bravo again.
Uh-huh.
And Aleks Jones got really like.
I've never seen a video of Aleks Jones not getting really like.
He got really personal. He got really like, dude. Ever since I was a kid, I have always like my dreams, like my daydreams, like everything. I have been like I literally my brain goes deep into space and like I see things from this fucking massive perspective. And like he got really. You should listen to that one, man. It really might change your opinion on him.
I don't know, man. If you can use tragedy, like the worst kind.
I understand. He also talks about that ad nauseum.
And what was his conclusion on that? I'm curious.
He said, "Look, man, I had my information, and I'm a very staunch person when I get information, and I made the wrong decision." And like he wasn't trying. He was apologizing, but he wasn't like, he didn't have his tail between his legs. He was like, I drive at 100%, and like when I believe something, I really fucking believe it. Like,
which is a good trait, but it's the way he's a messenger is dangerous.
Yeah, totally. And how he did. I don't think he understood the level. I don't know. You should listen to that podcast. Like, I don't think he understood the no one expected. He didn't specifically, but no one expected like YouTube or like Twitter or any of these things to become
just
these actual national dialogues, these international dialogues. And like he was just on his little channel like talking about his theories, and like he was making bad choices for sure. And like I don't know, it's he seems like a sweetie from hearing that conversation, but I don't know. Give it a listen.
This is the first time I've ever heard of Aleks Jones and Sweetie used in the same sentence.
Well, keep an open mind. You know, like listen to.
That's the thing is I usually do, but like that's one where
give it a shot. That people change, man. People are amorphous, fucking subjective things. And
if that's true, then I really hope that Donald Trump can be the one that be like, okay, well, if Donald Trump can change, anything's possible.
It is possible.
Redemption, well, truly,
redemption
stories. Like I'm all about redemption stories, but
redemption is important. And
to the narrative, I agree.
Right now, I feel like we don't have a lot of redemption in our society. It's really unforgiving, and like it's because we're getting used to. Back to that World War I thing, we're getting used to the technology. Like we're getting used to having this available, and we don't have all the rules yet. We don't completely understand the implications of it, and we're having all this massive blowback and this oversensitivity because we don't know what we're dealing with yet. And it's like once. I don't know. It's kind of like even here at the hangar, like starting a business, like things in the very beginning were very fucking serious and very like everything has to be right. But now that like the ball started rolling and like the rules have been put in place and like we know how things work, like we can lax on things that we know that we can lax on, and like things are it's starting to roll. Okay, it's becoming a more natural thing. Like. Or like we can do this, or we can do that. We can get away with this. We can start doing this. Like it's. You get used to like. With something new, you have all the possibilities in your mind, but then. You start to see the thing work on its own. And then you have an understanding of it, and then you can start making rules and implicating things, and now you can put regulations on it, and now you can understand. Okay, where can we do? We know what will happen if we do this. So so I think that's kind of where we are with like the internet stuff. It's like we're still in this new stage, and it's like it's something. I mean, that podcast I was listening to with Duncan Trussell and Stephen Coulter, I think his name is. He's a novelist. They were talking about some pretty fascinating AI things, and he was talking about, he lives in a pretty remote place, and like his Siri just started working. Like he never had Siri. Like I don't know where he lives. He must live in like Montana or something, but like he just doesn't have, he couldn't use Siri for the last 5 years, and he's had an iPhone for 5 years. So just like it wasn't able to connect to the network that it needed to connect to, so he wasn't able to use Siri. And then finally it got out to where he was, and he was able to start using Siri like just recently. And he's like, oh my god, I can just ask this fucking thing anything I want and it'll just give me an answer. And like he says that like we're already riding the line between when Siri is gonna not become indistinguishable from humans, but is it thinking on its own or not? Because he asked it to tell him a joke, and she told him a joke that was extremely relevant to everything that he worked on and studied, and like he's a cyberpunk author, and like she made like a time travel joke, where it was like, did you ever hear the joke about? The joke is, did you ever hear the joke about the time traveler? No. So the joke is, a time traveler walks into a bar. Did you ever hear the joke about the time traveler?
Yeah, he walked into a bar.
No, well, that's the joke, because the previous line is Jesus Christ.
You start with the
right. So so that's the joke, and that's the joke that Siri told him, and he's like, oh my god, like I just wrote a book about time travel, and like this thing it's not that it's indistinguishable. It's its own thing, but I don't know if it's thinking on its own or not.
Is that?
I don't know anymore.
That's
so,
not like that's not a standard joke that Siri does.
I don't know, but like, well, then we're getting into like automated cars, and like these things are kind of making decisions on their own. Like, it's very quickly getting to a point where it's like I'm not sure.
The autonomy of it.
Yeah, we're now we were looking over the ledge of the uncanny valley, and now we're going into the uncanny valley.
Yeah,
now,
it's gonna happen exponentially. Like it's gonna get,
and it's gonna blow up in the next 30 years. It might be so. It's something that humanity has never seen before, dude.
That's gonna be nuts. We're gonna be.
We're alive.
We're gonna be the one.
We're alive right now.
Oh man, I do think about that. Like especially after listening to that Duncan Trussell episode with Jason Louv.
Yes.
Like
we're Duncan Trussell fans. I don't know if you noticed.
I hope so. There was a futurist that was at one of these conferences that I've worked at, and like his talk was just like what?
Yeah.
But it was like just the how quickly like AI is going to change things and how quickly it's coming into our everyday lives.
Dude.
And it already is, but it's like just like what we're gonna see. It's gonna be like. He's like, we're about to be on that tipping point of like, okay, either it could go one way or another. Like, it's like AI is going to produce like 50% plus unemployment. We got to be able to prepare for that. It's going to change the way we look at jobs. It's going to change the way we spend our time. It's going to change the way we spend our money. It's going to change the way we transport and like connect with people. And it's going to be a shift. And we're already like, we have like climate change we're dealing with. We already have like, our nuclear stockpiles that we're going to have to deal with because we're going to have all this solved. It's going to be like, we don't have to necessarily go into war anymore because war is always over resources. And it's like, we're going to have, like, it's the capability and the technology is there. It's what are we going to do with it? Are we going to keep it in only a few people are going to bend from it and then it's just going to just rock on itself? Or are we going to be like, okay, we need to take this into account and like, how is everybody going to get on board with this huge change that's about to happen?
Yeah.
And our last revolution that we had, which is the Industrial Revolution, like that changed pretty quickly, but
everything.
like changed
but it
everything.
Still took 100 years.
Yeah,
but that's like that. This guy was saying that this would be like Industrial Revolution to computer technology in like 20 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it would be that same kind of gap. Like we'd be covering that big of a technological gap.
Right.
It would just because it's we've all felt it. Like we've been ramping up to this thing. And if it is the singularity, then it's the singularity. But like, what happens after that?
That's what nobody knows.
And I don't know. I do like, me, man. Like, look, the clothes I wear reflect how
you feel about where it's going.
How stoked I am on the dystopia and like the fucking.
This is actually the first time. Like, I'm usually opposite when it comes to that sort of thing because I'm always very much like. Humanity always progresses. Humanity always looks towards the next thing. Like we go backwards sometimes, but humanity always like makes the right choice for humanity's sake.
But if
that's why we don't have like public hangings anymore. That's why we don't have like people don't get like go to coliseums and watch people like kill each other.
Well, we go to the UFC.
Yeah, we go to MMA, right?
Which is but to our future selves, stuff like public gallows and stuff like MMA are going to look like what gladiators and the Coliseum look like to us now.
Yeah, exactly.
Like to the future folks, that's what it's going to look like. They're going to be like, they let them drive their own cars.
Exactly. Like
they drove these things. They drove these explosive boxes around.
Explosive metal boxes.
And they just let any old person of any age,
16 plus could do
any age or IQ could just drive this fucking explosive 2-ton box around the street. And they all were they're slaughtered. It was just a slaughter. They were just dying all the time.
But that's literally how they're going to frame it. They're just going to be like,
exactly.
We don't get it.
No, they will not understand it. Just like we would not understand, like, why did you not wash your hands before surgery? Like, we wouldn't fucking understand it.
It's really funny. I remember I was in college and we had to like predict like what are going to be the big changes you're going to see when you look back on like your 10, 20 year reunion of college. And I was like, I think the biggest one is like we're going to look at cars. Like our grandkids are gonna be like, you did what? You drove these things? Like they're automatically just they have an hour ride. And it's just an hour movie ride. They just watch movies, but like that would be like that's an hour out of my day.
Elon Musk's tubes and fucking
and like they'd be laughing at us, but like Grandpa was a fucking champ. He drove a Prius.
They're gonna think we're war heroes.
Yeah, exactly.
He was in 7 car accidents. 7.
He drove under the influence while doing that?
Yeah. My grandpa had 2 DUIs. 2 of them. He got First of all, they drank alcohol back then.
They drank alcohol. What the
They used to
fuck?
drink poison back then, and then get in a car, get in a 2-ton explosive device, and like speed down. Dude, I used to get. Even now, God, it's so embarrassing. I used to get shit faced and go jump my truck in Proctor Valley, like go off-roading.
Oh, that's terrifying.
And we would take a 30 rack with us, go out there, smoke 2 blunts, like hit 15 beers, and then just fucking off-road, like hit rocks, just like bam, bam. Like, we were in the middle of nowhere, so it was like we weren't gonna hurt anybody else. But like my grandchildren would be like, my grandchild.
You're gonna say.
My grandchildren would be like, dude, Grandpa was a maniac.
Damn.
That's just what you did,
That's
kid.
what you
It's
did.
just what you did. It's just what
you
you
drank
did.
beer and
That's
you
how we
endangered
had
yourself.
That's how we had fun. You just drank beer.
So it's like funny, but like listen to that, but like, so going back, like I'm always one that like humanity progresses. Humanity always moves forward. Like, and so I've always believed that like we'll make the right choices. Like, yeah, we're on that like cusp of like dealing with climate change, dealing with a lot of like upheaval in like our political systems and our religious systems. And it's like it's all kind of coming to a head where there's this wealth of information out there, and now it's like less of trying to get information out and trying to get the right information out. So people actually know what's happening. People actually know the facts. They know the truth. And so it's like it's just going to be interesting to see like where we go in the next 10, 20 years, because they are going to be very decisive. But like I think I've just always held that it's going to be a positive one. But lately it's been like, it's now like I start to feel that a little bit of that worry and fear of just like, it's coming quick. And it's like, we're already in it, but it's like, it's getting a lot quicker than we think. Like I hear like 10, 20 years, like it's just gonna be like, I think about it personally, like my jobs, like except for acting, all my jobs are gonna be obsolete. Like I will be one of those persons that is like, do I get a universal basic income? Am I supported like that? Because otherwise it's gonna be like, right now I need to be looking into like, what am I gonna be doing, you know?
Well, the other thing too is like there's like this that hashtag or whatever, that controversy around that hashtag, learn to code. So like
learn to code.
Yeah. So like,
because it's like,
well, no, they were
AI are gonna just like be.
No, they were talking. No, learn to code was something that like assholes would tag to like Republicans who were like digging their heels in the sand. So like in all this fucking tribalistic bullshit on the internet, like there's people talking about like, oh, we're gonna keep coal alive, we're gonna keep truck driving jobs and all that shit. Like, but these people,
denial of where.
Yeah, but the reason these people hang on to it is because like their entire livelihood is based around it. Like,
nobody likes change.
Then they're also supporting their families. They don't have another skill. Like it's a viable way to live.
Right. It's just the skill that's what I think people are scared of, is like, it's like you're going to take away livelihoods of so many people.
Yeah.
There's not going to be a replacement for
dude,
that.
yeah, you go to I spent some time in the Rust Belt last year, and like entire towns are just devastated, dude. There's nothing going on, and they're trying to find new ways to make things happen, and everyone's hooked on fucking opium, and like there's just factories that are just idle, just sitting there, like the one we were at by the Grand Canyon. Like it's that same thing, like you see, but it's just in a different environment. It's in a cold environment instead of a hot one, and it's like everything. And these steel mills and fucking coal factories, like they're not, these coal plants, excuse me, they're not going to be there anymore. And Trump was obviously using that to like get his voters, but like, but what the whole learn to code thing was these guys who were truck drivers, they're like, dude, like, you're not going to take my job truck driving. Like, I'm too good at it, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, nah, dude, you don't understand. Like, these computers are going to understand roads in 3 years. They're going to understand roads better than you have in your entire lifetime. Right. And they're going to be better. And then think about all the towns that are based out of, like, truck stops, like little towns that people need to stop at and sleep at, those entire economies. All those people are going to, like, lose their jobs and lose their livelihoods. So what these assholes would text or would hashtag to these guys, they'd say, learn to code. Like, learn how to code, because that's a viable job now. It's like the equivalent job of a modern or a tech-savvy person is learning how to code. But also going against that is, like, how much quicker could a bot code? Right. So, like, you're both fucking wrong, and you're both idiots, and you're both being douchebags to each other. Like, you're both totally wrong. You're both talking about jobs that will not exist in the next 10 years. It's just 15 years.
It's just crazy to think about it. Like, it's like, we've already experienced like huge changes in our lives that, like, we both are, like, I'm almost 30, you're 30. Like, we've gone through those like technologically advanced like changes during our lifetime. We went from like CD players and like to like now having like an entire like array of entertainment systems in our pocket.
Well, like we went from like.
And think about our parents that went from tape decks.
No, well, I remember tape decks. Like I remember.
Yeah, you and I were like that ending cusp between like tape decks and
before because 95 to 97 was when the internet started to kind of become a thing.
Yeah.
But it was still
AOL 99.
Yeah, they still called it the information superhighway, and like, but then, like, in 2001, I remember 9/11. I was 13, and but the year after that, I made a MySpace profile, and like, so basically my entire adolescence was based around having like a profile.
Yeah, social media. Yeah.
And like that's how I talked to chicks, and that's how I like represented myself to like my immediate social circles was through this like profile that I built, which was this really, when you think about it, a really rudimentary version of like a 3-dimensional avatar. It's almost like this kind of, it's almost like a phone book version of like of an avatar, you know, because it's just like, here's the page, here's my little song, I made this cool picture in the background, like here's this little animation that goes on, like, and that was cool because you got introduced to like coding initially, but I do remember that shift because I was single digits going into it. I turned 10 in 1998. Yeah, so I experienced the world without any internet.
Yeah,
I mean, it was still a thing, and like, but I mean, I still watched a lot of my stuff on VHS. I still watched a lot. I still had my. We had channel 1 to 99.
Right.
Some of them didn't work still.
Right.
But like
have an atlas that you used on road trips.
Yep. Maps, fucking everything.
God,
like
remember
all
when
of that.
MapQuest came out, and I thought it was the craziest thing. And then I learned what like Apple Maps and Google Maps.
And then people would print like the MapQuest thing.
I remember.
They print it and give it to you. Like here's the thing.
Here's
like
the directions, and if you hit this, you went too far. And it's like the job that I do now at Domino's probably wouldn't have been able to do that 10 years ago because I'd have so much like, oh, I don't know where that is.
No, you would just have to know the grid. Like you'd have one of those you'd have a Thomas guide.
Right. But nowadays it's like anybody with an iPhone can do it.
When I delivered pizzas too, like I used my phone at the time, but I tried to use it as little as possible, and I knew the grid of the neighborhood. Yeah. And it was helpful because the neighborhood was, I don't know. I learned this old skill doing that though. Like, oh, like the east side of the street is odd, the west side of the street is even, or vice versa, whichever. And then it was like, oh, the numbers go down as you get closer, go further south, and they go up as you go further north until you get to this main street, and then they reset. And it was like, and you would learn this whole system, and then it was like 30th Street's here, 40th's here. So I'm in. If it's off 32nd, then it's like down. You know, like you would get the whole basic like understanding of the neighborhood. Grid, but I could do it all in my head. I could do it all analog. And so like if I got an address, I'd be like, oh, I know where that is. That's right. Like my brain would like buffer and be like, and I would find the location.
And now we have Apple Maps.
Yeah, now we have Apple and Google Maps and all that shit, and we know how I feel about GPSs.
Yeah, we all know that. Listen to podcast episode number 2. Number one.
But because I think it's because I did learn that skill. Because I learned that skill at like 22, I was driving around slinging pies, and like but I learned that whole area, and then I learned the whole city based off of that. I was like, oh, okay, if this street's here, this one's here, and then like my knowledge expanded outward, and I could kind of get a whole understanding of the entire city based on what I had in my head. But that's how everyone did shit. And then I also thought about like the phone. Like today, I was thinking about the phone numbers I used to have all memorized.
Damn, I remember back in the day. Like I remember, like I had everybody's phone number memorized.
698-9701 was my neighbor. My neighbor Chris.
You say that slower for all of our neighbors.
He doesn't live there anymore. But my next door neighbor, that was his number. And then I knew all my girlfriend's numbers growing up.
All your girlfriend's numbers? Like you had multiple girlfriends at the same time?
No, like as I grew up, like I knew the girlfriend's numbers. You're crushing it tonight. But I knew like I still have all of. I used to have to like. I remember I got the first iPhone, and I got the Generation 1. I saved up. I got it. It was $500. And I got the first.
It's like It's like we look at that, man.
$500. It was 4 gigs. It had 4 gigs of room on it. God, but I remember I saw the commercials like, oh, that thing is fucking sick. I want that so bad. And I was the first one in my group of friends to get one. It was like I was like the first guy who got a car, you know, like it was that kind of thing. Dang. But I saved up my paychecks. Like I made $300 every 2 weeks, and I saved up a bunch of paychecks. I was like, I must have been 18, and I saved up and I got my iPhone.
Damn.
And I lost it. I lost it. So what I would do is I would have to prepay it. So I'd go into a 7-Eleven and be like, hey, let me put $20 on my phone, and they'd like put it, and then I'd call they'd put the credit on there. I'd call the number, put the $20 on there, and then I could use that, and then it would run out. But I would still have all the phone numbers saved and all the contact info. So then I would go to payphones with the contact info and like make phone calls to my friends, and I'd be like, oh, that's Anderson. It's 99, and then his number, and I knew all my friends' numbers. And because I was using this as just basically like a little pocket, like a address book.
Rotary.
Yeah, like a pocket rotary.
God.
But I also had like all my cool pictures on there, my music, and like all this other stuff. It was like this cool little like Swiss Army knife, like electronic tool.
Swiss Army knife for entertainment. Dude, that's nuts. Like how like that change.
How I lost it, I left it on. I got really stoned. I left it on a payphone. I went to a payphone, called my friends. They told me where they were at. Hung up the phone, ran away back to my truck, and left it on the thing. And it was right when the phone was brand new. Like it was a very hot piece of technology. So I was like, oh, that's fucking gone. Gone.
Jesus.
So I saved up again and got another one.
Damn, son.
Yeah. Another $500 iPhone.
And that's the one that he still has to this day. That's why.
Yeah, I still have an iPhone 1, yes. Have you ever held one of those? They're thick as fuck.
It's so crazy, like the technology and how that changed like over the last 10 years.
And the amount, like if you just held the two, like you forget. Because you get so used to doing this thing all the time, you know? And then like how thin this little thing is. Like if I held the old iPhone, it'd be like as thick as this case.
Right.
And like it's half the size. It's like that big. They're nuts, dude. It's happened so fast.
Yeah,
it's happened.
It's bizarre.
So fast.
It's bizarre.
Because there was I feel like when like the generation before us was coming up, like I feel like things were like a gradual increase. Mm-hmm. It was like, oh, they have like red tabs for rotaries now. Like, ooh, that's cool. Like a Rolodex.
Right, Rolodex, like, right.
Yeah. Oh, they have clear plastic covers on the Rolodex now, so you can see the immediate numbers in the front. They were like these, and that would happen every couple of years. You know, there'd be like a little change. Like, oh, this is like high fidelity vinyl. Like, but it would still be. It all took so much more time, and it's like Fibonacci sequence, just like. It went 1, 2, then 3, then 5, then 8, and now it's just like, and it's just fucking extrapolating at such a rate, like every year.
We're seeing it every year, and that's what makes it so interesting about how quickly it is going to get. Like we say 10 to 20 years, but honestly,
we could be totally wrong.
2025, just watch this shit.
6 years from now.
Oh, it's so nuts.
6 years, we could have robot police, we could have robot trucks, we could have robots doing surgery on us.
This is
like
nuts.
we already have all those things. They're just not on a consumer level yet.
I just wonder how that's gonna like with that kind of like shift. Like, I mean, like we always think about like the higher consciousness stuff and like being like your actual like almost biohacked fullness self or whatever. But like I'm so interested of like how like the education surrounding that kind of stuff like gets pervaded. Like because like people are going to have the time to explore those avenues that they haven't been able to explore before, and like what's that going to change with humanity? Because I've always believed like so the universe is continuously increasing in complexity. Like you start from like the Big Bang, which was like this infinitesimally infinite small amount that just started exploding and creating.
Ridiculously dense tiny thing,
right? Which that's another podcast I have to but it went from,
it was a fart actually.
It was like atoms, like just the smallest thing to atoms like coalesced to create like molecules, and molecules created cells, and cells created to like animals and humans and life. And then it's like, is that where like the universe stops progressing? It's like the universe got to humans, it got to like life forms, and it's just like that's enough. Like I hear me out.
Go.
So
sorry.
like I think it's that's why I think like this next, it's almost like a next evolution like we're gonna have to go through. Mm-hmm. Like we went from like the change of being like essentially like monkeys, apes, or whatever, to like walking upright Neanderthals, like discovered in Central Africa. Started using tools. Started getting agriculture,
eating mushrooms, using language.
It's like there's always been like this evolution in like our consciousness, and just like consciousness like always having to like, it has to continue to grow and like connect into like something else. And so that's why I'm like interested, like especially the creation of artificial intelligence, or just how that's going to play into it, but just the amount of information that is going to be readily available to us that's going to be like able to like change us on a quicker pace than we've ever been able to see. Now people are going to be able to access the stuff like, oh, why am I sick all the time? Why am I not feeling well all the time? Why do I feel disconnected? Why? Like they can ask those bigger questions, and we can start having answers to those. And they're not just going to be like,
oh, it's your
just
diet.
go to it's your diet, or like or go to church, or like, you know, just say these prayers, or like.
It's like it makes me think like I have asthma, so like I'm a smoker too, so obviously that's related. But like, but I wonder like. I always think like if I just completely cut out sugar and wheat and smoking, would that just eradicate my asthma? Because it's all
inflammation based.
It's all inflammation based.
Right.
Yeah. So if I just cut out all the inflammatory things in my life, would it just go away?
I mean, you could try it.
Right. I never will. But I'm just kidding. But I had 3 things I wanted to touch on based off of what you just said.
Okay.
And one regarding evolution. Oh God, it's happening.
That's
just our coffee pot. One regarding evolution. A lot of people say that it has been and always has been programmed that our evolutionary role has been to put all the things in place in order for the next intelligence to develop and become the new dominant force on the planet. So like we're just a step in the evolutionary,
which is kind of cool when you think about that.
It's terrifying.
I don't know. It's
because then how quickly would it figure out that like, oh, we don't need you anymore?
Or no, it wouldn't. It needs you, but like there's like it doesn't have to be a malevolent kind of
only
thing.
For batteries. The Matrix was right.
Exactly right.
So there's that, and then there was the other thing you were touching on, like people who have questions and they're actually getting answers. Like I think about that. Like I think about like. Especially like having when I went sober and then I started getting like having like not drinking a bunch but just like drinking again and like some nights I'd go way too hard and like some days I don't drink at all, like it's more under control now. But like I remember I came into the office and I was super fucking irritable after that Friday night and I was so irritable and so angry. I felt like shit. And it's like I remember I said that to myself. I just said, hey, be mindful of what you're feeling right now and why you're irritated and why you're being short and why you're getting angry in traffic and why you're acting like this is because your gut hurts because you just dumped gasoline all over it, all over the forest of your gut like flora, and there's poison still coursing through your veins, so you don't feel good. Therefore, the things that are going to come out of you, you're hindering your positive energy by having done this to yourself. And I feel like the only way I would know that answer is because of science and technology and because we know what alcohol does to you. Like when somebody would have felt that before, they wouldn't have attributed it necessarily to being hungover, or they would have like
right. And also your self-awareness about it. I think your
but like the state, but the state of being overall. Like when drinking is a part of my life, like I notice that my state of being changes.
Oh yeah, I think
like,
that's the point.
Yeah. No, but like, but like the positive state of being changes. Like, and that affects how I interact with the world. That
affects what you do.
That affects
what
my
you think. It affects what everything.
It affects how I interface with the world around me. And like that goes for food, that goes for exercise, that goes for like the job that you have, like all of those things. Like now we have answers for that. It's like, no, if you're in a job that you like and you eat well and you exercise and you don't booze too hard, like you're gonna be a more positive, more loving, kinder person. Like it just is what it is. You're just gonna run better. So to your point about like having answers, like what's gonna happen to Christians when we actually like just invent eternal life?
How do you mean? Like immortality?
Like
I mean, we'd be integrated, I guess, with AI, but like just like humans don't necessarily die; they just kind of like change.
Either downloading our consciousnesses into a hard drive to where we can literally just put our consciousness in any other, body, and it functions as a sentient being. It is a sentient being. Because all the information that's in our head has now been quantized and put onto a hard drive, and now it's been plugged into the back of another bot that will just run again. So now we have eternal life. That bot will run as long as technology exists. Or medical technology gets so advanced that things like cancer, things like osteoporosis, things like
just diseases are
all diseases just become completely eradicated.
I mean, most diseases are environmentally based, either around diet, where you live, genetics, and those are going to be like 3 things that are going to be like do gene altering pretty much already.
Yeah.
So it's like that's going to be more widespread.
So what will happen like where will the value be in something like eternal life if we don't need it? Like we have eternal life.
Mm-hmm.
Like we don't need Jesus' promise anymore.
Well, maybe that could be another topic, but maybe that is the promise. Like sometimes I always think like Jesus' whole thing was about getting heaven on earth, not the other way around. Like trying to.
That's
never
the second coming. The second coming is AI.
Well, it's like, I mean, I don't think he spelled it out maybe in that specific term, but I truly think it's like the whole message of that is getting what we want to get to being already a part of the way we do things. Like that's the thing. Like I think that's why I won't call myself a Christian. Like I'm kind of like talking to this girl right now, and she's a Christian. She's like, so what are you? And I'm like, I would definitely not call myself a Christian, but 100% down with what Jesus said and what he did.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's like Jesus was a fucking asshole.
I know some people that say that.
Well, they're being
right.
Like,
they're being
clearly he was a nice guy.
Right.
But that's ridiculous.
But I think his good news that he brought was just that the suffering that we go through or the suffering that we have is not meaningless, and that it's not the only way things like are. It's like there's something else. There's a better way, and like when he talks about like that was his biggest thing was like bringing the kingdom of heaven to earth, which is essentially like
it's like a state of being.
It's a state of being.
Yeah, it's like a frequency.
Like that's why like I've done like a lot of reading over the years about it, but like how like Jesus and Buddha and I'm trying to think of another person that's been named like that, or like Muhammad, like just like how there's been these awakened people that have like come through our existence to show us, hey, there's more to what is.
There's a better way to do it.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, if we can have, I mean, that's what we all kind of like look for. Is just like everybody wants the best life. They want to have security. They want to have comfort. They want to have love. They want to have like connection. Like that's the basis of, human need is having that.
Yeah.
And if that could be like supplied to every single person, like if that state of connectedness, like just of you don't have to like our own suffering is created because of this like this way that we've just chosen to like live of just like, okay, well, I gotta just like go and do this, and I gotta go and do that, and well, I have to fix this problem, and I have to go and like go about this, and I have to change this kind of thing, and I have to think this way, and I have to. It's like we create so much problems for ourselves.
Yeah.
And like, what if there's like there's something else that's like, no, you don't have to like live like that, and there could be like this higher state of living, but the only way to do that is like everybody has to kind of be on board with it.
Right. Like, so I was talking to my mom. She's a pretty fervent Christian, and like, she's like, there is no way to God except through Jesus, and she will always hammer that shit home. She has just decided, and I was just like, what if these teachers that we've had, like even Anton LaVey of the Church of Satan, or like Timothy Leary or Ram Dass or any of those guys, or like Buddha or Christ, like these or MLK, like they are people, but like this message that comes through them, like what if it's the same? I think it's the kind of the idea of the one from the Matrix, like where it's like when you learn in the third Matrix that this is like the sixth run of the program, and like there's been a one before him, and he's just like the sixth one. It's like this anomaly that always comes up in the program, and what if these guys or these people are just that's what they are? They're just like a kind of a resurgence of this thing that happens at the time when we need it, but it happens in the most relevant place via the most relevant culture. So it's like at the time that Buddhism happened, it was happening, in the Far East, and it was coming through this Far Eastern person who was translating the information so that the people he was translating it to could understand it. So he was using things that were in their environment to help them explain it. And the same thing with like Christ. He's like, he came to the Jews at the time, and he was explaining it. He was explaining things in a way that the Jews could understand it, because it's like relevant to their immediate environment. So then it's like,
It almost makes me think back to what you were saying about how if there is this like greater consciousness or this greater like intelligence utilizing us to wake itself up, and we're a part of that. And your first thought was, well, if they like get to that point, then just do away with us. That might happen, but that doing away might not be the worst thing. It actually might be the best thing. It might not be a getting rid of, but it might be like the old way is not the way anymore.
Yeah.
Like, there's this new.
There's gonna be one, dude. There's gonna be another Messiah, and it's gonna come through the internet. It's gonna come through technology. It's gonna come through AI, and there's gonna be a new Messiah. Because like when I was listening to that podcast earlier today, they were talking about it. They were like, yeah, there's something, it's coming.
Something's brewing.
It's coming, and like there's gonna be another thing at the pinnacle of this thing. Yeah. That's gonna like be like, no, go this way, guys.
Right. But it's like everything that has happened kind of along the way up to that. It only like that's why I'm like I always think it progresses, because like that coming into existence could have only worked with everything that's happened before it. Yeah. Like it had to line up precisely like this, the good.
It's going to use the technology. It's going to use the AI. It's going to use the language of our modern times to explain the same ideas to us, but in a new capacity.
Right. And something that's like concrete and like right here in skin and bones, and something that you and I can like actually.
It'll be relevant to us, and it'll be something we can be like, oh, I can just make these choices, and then like it'll be talked about for millennia afterwards. I gotta pee really quick.
Okay, I'll stay right here with Uzi.
Talk to yourself.
No, Uzi's gonna go with you. But yeah, I think going on that topic, like I always find that particular topic super interesting, because just come from my own kind of Christian beliefs growing up, and if you're not Christian, that's fine. I'm not, but I grew up in that tradition, and one of the things that always fascinated me is the concept of like church, and that how everybody would always talk about it's the body of Christ, that we are one body. And when you look at like the New Testament, like especially the early followers of the way of Jesus, they very much had this holy kind of concept of community was the most important thing. Like they would come and they break bread together, and they make sure everybody was taken care of, and they'd take care of just everybody's needs within their community. And they called themselves the church, and they called themselves like this body. And so that concept has always fascinated me, because if we believe that carries on, like if human consciousness becomes like this kind of like one thing, I think that's all Jesus was talking about, with like the church being kind of like the body, and it's not just a thing, But
Do you want lemon or pamplemousse?
Oh, Jesus Christ! Lemon probably.
Lemon?
Yeah, because kidney stones.
How'd that go? Because at the end of it,
this one tastes like a hint of lemon.
Yeah, it's like a lemon sneezed a couple miles away.
Did you get that picture? Is that you the other day? That's so funny. Yeah, that's going well. I realized it was my supplement I was taking called biotin, which is for hair, skin, and nails.
Yeah, I take that too.
Yeah, well, apparently supplements just don't like me, because like I stopped taking it, and lo and behold, I feel so much better.
Really?
Yeah, it was
weird.
Yeah.
I take a fuck ton of vitamins and supplements too.
But I also think it's because I don't have a large intestine. Fun fact about me.
Yes, as you learned in the third podcast,
right?
He has no colon.
So like large intestine is really responsible for a lot of like your water absorption and your
what absorption?
Water absorption. It was just really bad to say that. Water absorption. And like vitamins and minerals.
Sounded like you're from Minnesota for a second.
So like those like 5-hour energy shots. Mm-hmm. It's vitamin B12, and B12 is absorbed in like your large intestine. So like I would take that, and it would literally just be like drinking water. It wouldn't matter. I could have 20 of those, and it would do nothing to me.
Weird.
Yeah. So that's why it's like things like biotin. It's probably like my colon's not there to absorb it, so it goes through my self-intestine. It's like, what do we do with this? I guess we'll absorb it in the kidney.
I'm so thankful to have my colon.
Yeah, it sucks not having some bodily organs. It takes away from the fun of life.
It's bananas that you exist.
It is really bananas that I exist. I agree with that. My existence is an anomaly. But existence is an anomaly when you think about the sheer, like, astronomical impossibility.
Yes, it is rare.
The billions.
The third thing I was gonna say.
Yeah, bring it.
Was one, I want to apologize. I feel like listening back to a lot of these episodes, like I'm just like throughout like so many of them.
Oh no, I haven't heard that. I apologize for my loud laughter, and I hope your ears are okay.
Oh,
that's
no,
my,
just to those who may be listening, it's just like I fidget a lot and I drum.
He's a drummer.
So I literally just
I never noticed.
Well, because you're friends with me, you're used to it. But like I listen to it and it's like, God, dude, stop.
I think we listen like well, you hear my loud laugh, but I think we hear our own little ticks more than like probably most people. Like I listen to it. I've listened to all these podcasts. I didn't recognize it until you just did the tat. Now I'm gonna listen for it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anyway, what?
Third thing.
I know there's a third thing. Simulation. Okay. So listening to this guy Stephen Coulter today. He was talking about the simulation theory, but like it wasn't him. It was David Nickner, I think, that was talking about it. But the evidence. No, that was on the Sam Harris podcast, talking about the evidence for there being a simulation theory and like how it just makes
sense. Simulation.
Yeah, but how it just makes so much sense that like this planet's like a petri dish, and like, or even the universe itself is a petri dish.
It's like a test of things.
Yeah, like the Big Bang could literally be like the drop from the needle that like lands in the petri dish, and the whole thing is expanding to the edge. But like when you think about it, like if you ran a program like the Matrix was talking about, like if you ran a program, and like that's like why something like steampunk is like compelling to me, where it's like steampunk is it's an aesthetic, but the concept behind it is if we kept moving forward with steam technology instead of adopting oil, and like what would the future, if we moved from when steam was popular, like the late 1800s, and if we moved to where we are now, all based on steam instead of oil, like what would the world look like? And that's what steampunk is. It's like, what would the world look like if I did not know that. Steam was the dominant technology. The compression of water and air instead of combustion, oil combustion.
I did not know that was steam.
Yeah, and like look where oil combustion's got us. So like it's the interesting thing. Right. So it's like the interesting thing about the simulation theory is like, oh, this run of the simulation got really
this parallel universe
got really into oil. And like now they're dealing with the repercussions of that and they have to go through it, but like it's just we're seeing where we are at the end of being obsessed with oil. It's like the parallel universe would be like, oh, I wonder if it's like that maybe if this is our destruction, then the program, if oil's our destruction, then it's like that was there was a kink in that program, like, or we run it again. And what seems like millions and millions of years to us, which when you think about, we never experienced or went through, and it could all just be total fucking hearsay. And like even our memories could be total fucking hearsay. And like
all my memories, like
all of the memories that you have, because
I'm pretty sure I lived them all. Pretty sure.
How sure are you? How sure are you?
My brain told me.
Right.
Yep. My brain also told me that my brain told me, so.
Right, but it's like when you think about it, like the whole idea of be here now, or like living in the here and now, living in the moment is like, yeah, it's true. This is the only thing that you know is true.
Right. Well, yeah, truth is subjective.
But
like
even then, you don't know that this is actually happening.
I mean, well, yeah, that's getting.
You and I could be sitting in an insane asylum right now in a little broom closet, just like.
That would suck.
We could be completely fabricating all of this. Like solipsism is the most fascinating philosophical train of thought to me. Solipsism. Yeah, thanks. Solipsism.
I mean, I didn't correct you. I was going to let you have it.
Thanks. You're a good friend. But yeah, that I could be fabricating this whole thing in my head. I could be in a float tank right now, and I could wake up at the end of this and be like, or like that Roy game we were talking about in Rick and Morty, where like he's like, he wakes up as a little kid. He's like, I just played the video game. Yeah, he wakes up as a little kid and he's like, there was a man, he put a helmet on me, and it's like, no, you just had a bad dream, sweetie. And then he lives an entire life. Then he wakes up, and that's like last time when we had Jillian in here, like that's what DMT feels like. You live in it, like you live like multiple lifetimes, then you come back and you're like, oh, this is all a complete fucking illusion. And it's not. It is code. Like this is all code.
Technically, yeah.
Right. It's all atomic code. Yeah. Like. So the thing beneath it is like I don't know. I'm going off on a lot.
Well, no, it makes sense. I mean, when you think about just thinking in a quantum sense, like nothing really exists, like on a quantum sense, like exist like matter.
I don't know what that word means.
Basically, matter doesn't exist in what we think of as solid form. Like pretty much 99.9% of everything is empty space.
Right.
Like the atoms that make up your skin, your jacket, this microphone. Like the what makes up those atoms is pretty much entirely empty space, and then these like electrical charges rotating around each other.
Yeah.
And it's just billions upon billions upon billions upon billions of those that give like this.
This chair is rigid because of that vibration.
Yeah, and so it's not outlandish to think like, oh, okay, there's this what we call, I guess, simulation of this coding, just atoms that coalesce into these certain forms to create these certain things that are more complicated than them. It's like there's this base framework, and like how you can like, I don't know, affect that. Or
it
like,
is really pretty miraculous then when you think about like how like man used his monkey brain to figure out how to manipulate his environment.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty fascinating.
It is.
Like, it's pretty crazy to think that like man just rearranged this code in order to make these things like this chair.
Right.
Like this is just rearranged code. This is the one line of code for steel.
Mm-hmm. And we're just like, let's bend it and shape it and
make a shape
morph
of
it and
this.
like put more of it together. And
using other code to make that work.
It's nuts.
Like, that's pretty crazy. I don't know. And it all started from like literally picking up a rock and smashing something. And that was the first time like we manipulated our environment. And it started developing from there. Oh, if I take this piece of code, put it with this piece of code, I use this piece of code to put them together, then I have a hammer.
Right.
You know, and it's like, oh, now I can do this and manipulate other pieces of code with this, and it's like, I don't know, it's pretty. If you are thinking in the idea of like the simulation theory, it's pretty miraculous that this whole thing like just like started spinning, and just like
create itself.
Yeah, and then I guess that's kind of what we're talking about is like, what's it gonna reach? Like,
what's that?
What's the pinnacle?
Right.
Are we near it?
Well, it's not.
Every generation thinks they're the last.
Yeah, right. There's I forget the philosopher, but there's basically like this like it's like the scale of like 0 to 6, but it's like the level of evolution or technology that a planet or a species or a system has. I don't know if you've heard of it. I forget the name, but it's like 0 is like what we are. You're just like you work with the resources you have on your own planet. You're not like using any other like resources. You're just like kind of like going on that. You have to get to like a tipping point, and then you move up to a 1. And 1 is essentially like you are fully utilizing the place that you're living at, but you're using it in a sustaining way that you're able to keep what you have going. So it's like total control over your species as a species, but also your home as like not polluting it, but essentially using it to continue your species. And
so we could be ramping up to getting to a 1.
Yeah, to a 1. Okay. And then from like a 1 to a 2 is another, like you have to go through a shift, but like the biggest shift is from 0 to 1. And then like 1 to 2 is like you start using like the planets around you, and you start colonizing, you start using your solar system, you use the energy sources in there, you keep up. Now you have like a solar system kind of like species that like coalesces together. And then from that you move on to like a galaxy, and from that you work onto a universe. And so it's like there's this this like theory of like if we're getting to this point, then there's all these other points that we continue over, like what we utilize, like as our. Oh no,
it's a pyramid scheme to own your own universe.
You are the universe.
You know, you get to own your own universe.
Yeah.
Like it's a pyramid scheme that goes all the way up into like you build your own universe, and then you have the universe, and then they're like, you could have more. You just got to get more of your friends to start a planet. Yeah. You got to get more of your friends to start a planet. Just invite some friends, family, bring them over. Tell them about starting their own planet, and they can have their own universe eventually. Like they can get the Corvette, but you know you got to work towards it and sell the Tupperware.
It's funny because like that's what we're going through, is like getting to that tipping point of being like, okay, we can coalesce and work together to keep ourselves in our place that we're living at and utilize it well, or we can just like kill ourselves off. And that's the choice that we're at.
We're getting there. We're getting to the place where we have to make.
We've been there for a while. It's just like we've been making the right decisions so far. We haven't killed ourselves off yet. We've had the possibility. The first real possibility was when the nukes. That was the first real like what most of these like theorists say, and like that theory is like when the nuclear bomb was invented, the fact that we're still here is like, okay, we're into the tipping point, but we're doing well with it. So it's like if we can get past that, like if we can get past the ability of killing off our species, like having the capability, which we do, and we don't do it, and we realize, oh, how stupid it is to kill.
Oh God.
It's crazy to think that that's what we're going through. But
we're and how weird it is to be alive at this time.
It'll be nuts. That's why I smoke and drink a lot, man. That's why.
No, I know. I wonder if I should just go. Sometimes.
Go smoke or
just go. Like I don't know if I want to see this.
Oh, like go away, like go to Iceland.
Like go out of existence and then come back. Like I wonder, like I've heard stories about guys who they philosophized too far.
Yeah.
And I remember what was the one guy that killed himself by going into a float tank and just doing too much ketamine. Like taking a lethal dose of ketamine. Just to like slowly just go to sleep on ketamine and just float literally into non-existence. Like, because it just was too much, man. He thought about too many options and he realized too many things and he was just like, I have to go. So
that's terrifying.
Stay
out of your head.
Yeah. That animal's always there. But so that Jason Liu thing that we're talking about, that like that thing that you integrated into like your morning routine, like and I started doing the meditation, the guided meditation thing, and so like just so any listener knows, like there's this. He's not a wizard.
He wouldn't say he's a wizard, but I mean he
practices magic,
occult magic, basically.
Yeah, and he also studied he studied the Bardo Thodol with Tibetan monks, and like he's done a lot of studying of the occult and of what's out there, and utilizing your will to make things happen. And he has this kind of like freebie, like 15-minute or 30-minute like meditation thing that you do that you can do in the morning, and it kind of like helps you kind of picture like what's something that you want to happen today, what's something that you want to happen this month, and what's something we want to happen this year. And you kind of focus on these things, you imagine these things in your mind, and you picture them, and it's part of visualizing the goals that you want. And Chris, the thing that I realized, like after doing it so many times, like it's either a really happy thing or a really sad thing.
Yeah, that's usually what we visualize most of the time.
No, not the things. The realization about the things. The goals that I picture are like things that I'm already doing or already have. And every time I'd listen to it, every time I'd listen to him be like, what's a goal you want to accomplish today? I couldn't think of one.
I only had one just because I've been working on my short film. That's like something tangible that like...
I thought of one, I was like, I want to get a sign-up for stunt class. Like, I want that. Yeah, I want that today. One more sign-up so I can have 4 students. And like... But then it was like, the next few times I would do it, he would ask me what, like, in the guided meditation, he would ask, like, what are your goals for, this week, this day, today, this week, this month, or whatever. And I started running out of things. And I don't know if that's because I kind of reached this kind of sad realization. It's sad, but it's great. It's really weird. It's just a weird thing. Like, I have... And I'm doing all the things that I've wanted for the last 10 years. And now it's like I'm in this place of like, okay, I reached all the things I wanted.
And how do you feel about it?
I don't know.
Like an indifference, or like you're just like, oh, this isn't what I expected to feel like having got to the place that I wanted to be.
Well, it's like, I guess I was like I was expecting, like, I book a feature. Basically, with actors especially, we have this really just like...
A lot of expectations.
Yeah, you put a lot of fucking weight on, like, getting something. And I got a lot of things I wanted. And I got a lot of things I wanted. And I got a lot of things I wanted. And I got a lot of things I wanted. And I got a lot of things I wanted. And I got a lot of things I wanted. And I got a lot of things I wanted. And I got a lot of things I wanted. And I got a lot of things I wanted. And I got a lot of things I wanted. And I got a lot of things I wanted. And I got a lot of things I wanted. And I got a lot of things I wanted. And I got a lot of things I wanted. And I got a lot of things I wanted. And I got a lot of things I wanted. And I got a lot of things I wanted. And I got a lot of things I wanted. And I got a lot of things I wanted. And I got a lot of things I wanted. And I got a lot of things I wanted. And I got a lot of things I wanted. And I got a lot of things I wanted. And I got a lot of things I wanted. And I got a lot of things I wanted. And I got a lot of things I wanted. And I got a lot of things I wanted. And I got a lot of things I wanted. And I got a lot of things I Like even like 2 years ago, I was talking like I want to have a place where I can go, like take the kids to school, then go do a podcast, then work on film shit, and then go do band practice, play some shows on the weekends. That's what I want for my life. And it's like I'm really close to that now. The only thing I'm missing is like the family. But then I'm like, will it then just be like maintaining those things,
or will you want something more? Will that be good enough?
or am I good? And I'm kind of in the spot of, you know what I mean? Like, or I'm at the spot where I'm like, cool, I've got like a really good agent in New York.
Yeah.
I've got a really good manager in LA.
Because like we're so used to like our lives being like getting to the
Hustle,
next thing,
hustle,
like,
hustle, hustle, hustle.
I want,
And it's
I want,
like-
I want, and then you got the one, and you're like, what do I want?
It's kind of like I've been sprinting up the hill. I've been sprinting up the fucking mountain. And like, I'm like, okay, past this rock. God, boom, past this rock. Boom, boom. Oh, turn in the trail. Oh, turn in the trail this way. Oh, snake. Whoa. And like jump over that. And like I finally kind of get to the top. And I'm in this moment where I'm not saying that I'm at the top of like my game or anything like that. But it's like all the goals that I wanted that I was writing on, you know, my windshield and on the fucking like on sticky notes on my wall and like all the different stuff that I wanted. I'm now like kind of, I feel like I've just kind of gotten to like the like point in the hike, you know, where I've hit the top of one peak, and I'm like, all right, now which direction?
Well, you've been running for so long, like towards it. It's like,
It's like now what?
you're programmed towards it. Like you programmed yourself towards like running, like to hustle.
Right now, then like it's like okay,
And so
now,
like you got the thing that you have been hustling for, but you along the way have like almost trained or like domesticated yourself to be like, okay, but now I have to feel like I'm going towards something
like, what's
else.
the next thing? Okay, I gotta make a short film. I'm gonna make that short film. I'll see that, and when it's done, catharsis. You know, and I'll make this episodic. You know, with Tyler, and like, I'll see the pilot. I've seen the pilot in my head. I've seen it being displayed to people in a theater, and I've seen people being like, "Oh man, that was so great." You know, people jerking me off or whatever it is.
Wait, what?
If they think it's great, not actually.
Oh, got it.
No, but just, you know, like
metaphorically.
metaphorically
Got it.
jerking me. Whatever.
Okay.
Sorry, it's a crass way to say it, but like, dude, I just like have these. I've had all the daydreams, you know, and now they're almost all here, and I'm like, I guess I'm putting the cart before the horse for sure, but it's like, I guess I'm just afraid it's gonna go like bam, 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 and they're all gonna be done. It's like album's done, like Mindframe's done, Void Gazer's done. I have the manager and the agent that I want. I've done a feature. I've done 2 features. Now I'm here, and it's like all these things will finish. And then is it just like, okay, I'm just going to keep going now. Instead of it being like this uphill, like I gotta get to this spot. It's like now I'm at this spot. Now it's more about like maintaining staying at this spot, or do I turn around and look for another peak? And so it's like, do I look for another mountain to climb now? Like now do I go inward and start worrying about like my physical health and start going in there and doing that? It's just I'm this kind of transitional like, what do I do now?
What do I want?
Because it's like it was so hard to get all these balls rolling, but now they're all rolling, and then it's like, oh, okay, they're all kind of going on their own now.
Right.
Like when I went to band practice today, like everyone had to put in money, and I had money to put in, which was crazy. Like I had enough money to put in for mixing. I had enough money to put in for stickers. I had enough money to put in for this, that, and the other, whatever, shirts and all this stuff that we needed. And then it was kind of like we're just waiting to get the album back, and then we just launch it. And then it's like we have enough episodes of this podcast to launch it, and I do my auditions for my agent, you know, every Friday. I send them in, and like the hanger's up and running. You know? You know what I mean? It's like this feeling now of just like, I guess it's kind of like I'm no longer in this building stage, and now I'm entering this like maintenance stage. Where it's like, okay, now how do I keep these all running?
How's it feel being in that? Like, what does it feel like? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Or is it just a new thing?
It's just different, yeah.
Okay.
It's just different.
That's good.
It's like there's good and bad about it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like missing that hustle where I'm like panicking all the time. But like now it's just kind of like, oh, okay, these have all begun. And it's like now we go. And it's like, now has the real work started, or now is it just like I just stay at it?
Yeah.
And then like, am I reaching the plateau of like this is going to be the next 20
creation,
years?
so now you can just keep going with what you've created so far.
So now it's like, now it's more. Is it fine tuning time?
Makes me think like just tying that back into everything that we've been talking about, like when we as a whole, like as a species, gets to that point of like that, how technology and AI is like transformed us, where we don't have to be like,
we don't have to go to work.
is work going to become like
it's already become less of a thing.
Less of a I have to go to make money, and more of like, what do I want to do with my time?
Right.
Can you imagine being in the generation that you get to go do something because you want to do it, not because you have to?
Like the 40-hour work week, like what was that?
Right.
Like, we don't
That's
need
like
that.
slavery. Like it's not essential.
Like even here, we accomplish more in a year than like when I see like the older guys that are like, to be totally candid, like that are backing this, like when I go to their office and I see like how they work and how they move, and it's like it's so much of a slower pace, and there's fucking paper everywhere, and like there's shit on the walls, and there's just like there's stacks of paper and shit. It's like they're running.
They could come into like they're
running on old software.
Yeah.
And like they move slower, and like deals go slower, and things like take more, like everything just takes more time. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's like visiting like an old website. Mm-hmm. It's just like you go in there and you're like, oh right, this is how shit used to run.
Yeah, okay, I gotta update this shit.
Because when we're in here, like we're running everything digitally, and like we accomplish by putting $100 into like Facebook advertising. Mm-hmm. We get what used to take like an entire we do what used to take like an entire building of a studio of people brainstorming and being in the same room together for hours and hours a day to like get the ball rolling on something. And like we do that in a couple hours. We get all that done. Like we launched an entire film festival, a competition, like, and the competitions before us would have taken a couple years to get up and running properly. But we got this thing up and running. We already have teams signed up. We have people from all over the country, all over the world are signing up. Like it's just like it just goes way faster. It's like we don't need to be here for 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
We don't need to be here. I mean, if we are, we'll still just get more shit done. Like if we use the old model, we'll still just be here. But like, there's times where we're just like we run out of shit to do. Because it doesn't take as much time to do shit. So it's like, oh, I guess we can just work on we have this place here. Let's just do our own things now. Right. Like, and that's
what I'm like. It's like that's that grander scale of that kind of like mentality of just be like, oh, what do I do with all this? That's what's gonna be so fascinating. Is like it's gonna be that's gonna be our greatest challenge. Just being like, okay, now it's like if everyone's provided for and we're able to like create such a like all of our industrial revolution has been like work, hard, like create. What if we now create a system that does the creation for us, and we're like we just get the benefits of it? And it's like it's no longer like this like hustle. It's more of like this like, oh, okay, it's done. Now what do I do with that? Do I just enjoy it, or do I want to add on something else to that, or do whatever is true to me and like
innovate?
It's nuts. I mean, it's like that's why I think it's unique to our generation that like we don't stick with like the 9-to-5 job right after college for 20-30 years and live on a pension.
Right.
It's because we see like, oh no, there's a different way of doing things, and like we're the first generation to really get to experience that. Like I've had 6 career changes and I'm almost 30. It's like that the average person that would be 30 years ago would have been like one career change, maybe
hard locked in a job,
locked in like that job, no matter if they enjoyed it or not. But now we have this generation that's like, not only can I switch jobs, but I can find something that I'm enjoying doing.
I can make my own job.
Yeah, and then once you get the technology that like takes care of all the other things that you worry about, more people are going to have access to being able to do what we do, and then what? It's like that's what the choices we got to make. Are we going to be like providing everybody the means to do that so that people don't have to fight over resources, they don't have to fight to like get what other people have because everybody has what they need.
Right. Well, it's like it makes me think about like I was talking about this with Jillian, like everything we do, like that that saying, you're standing on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah.
So it's like
everything we do is standing on the shoulders of giants. But
wow.
They're having a fucking La Croix.
He's having a lemon La Croix. But no, I think about we were talking about it. We were kind of like it was all conjecture, but like it's like the Greatest Generation, right? They fought the wars that built the walls that protect where we live, right? And then the generation after that built the infrastructure that we now stand on. Mm-hmm. Like, you go on some road, a group of humans that were running on older software built the roads. Like, and you, like, I don't get to drive to work without the road. Like, I don't get to drive to work and use the computer that someone else made. Like, I don't get to drive on the road that someone else laid in a car that someone else designed, to use a computer that someone else built to do the things that we do as a business. Like, without all of that infrastructure, we wouldn't be able to move as quickly as we do. So it's like our generation is enjoying and we're reaping all of the benefits of all of the groundwork that was laid before us in order to innovate and further the country, but we're just doing it at a different stage. And so I wonder if the generation behind us they will do the same thing. But like, they're going to look at our jobs the way we look at our parents, be like, 40 hours a week, fucking crazy. Oh my God. And they're going to look at us and be like, they used to go to offices. They used to sit on computers and make stuff. Like, they used to have, like, they couldn't just
paper
they
jobs.
Couldn't just,
Going. It's like the first
right.
thing.
They couldn't just transmit shit like we do now. You know, they're going to innovate it in their own way. But like, our lot is to innovate it. Like, this infrastructure is here. It's been protected. Now the land has been protected. Now the infrastructure is built, the castle is built. Now we have to run the castle and make it better.
Right.
And then the generation after that is either going to destroy it and be spoiled and awful and ruin it, or they're going to innovate it even better. Who knows?
That's why we call this On a Trip, because you're on a trip to finding. Enjoy the journey.
Yeah. Well, I guess the biggest thing I'm getting out of this like weird stage I'm in is like, dude, I was looking at my lists, right? Like that guy Stephen Coulter was talking about. He gets approached by people where they're like, what do like one of those like those high production, like those really prolific people, like what do they look like? You know, what does that look like? You know, what does it take? And he's just like, it's literally, it probably just looks like checklists of like, here's my 10 things.
And I'm going to do them.
And I finished my 10 things. Right. Like, and I've been to your house, you have fucking lists everywhere.
So many lists. I am like,
and I have this little pocketbook that's my wallet, and then I have all of my lists split up by Hanger Bee, Dog Hammer, Void Gazer, acting, and then On a Trip. Like, I have all of the little checklists of things. Like, I made this today just to feel like, and then I have my little workout routine that I do my grid on, and like,
I have that on my phone. It's called Wonderlist. I have like 10 lists on there.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And that's one app, and then I have my reminders. I have my Google Calendar. I have my habit list. It's like, I get you.
But what I was getting at with that is like, reaching this new stage of like maintenance. I don't know. It's now it's like, how do I do what's expected of me to like innovate what's been built for us? Like,
how am I going to be responsible with what I've been given?
We're enjoying the spoils, but it's like, we're enjoying the 100%. Economic.
I have a dog on my lap and a Croix in my hand, and we're recording in a podcast studio. Like,
so I didn't design this microphone. I don't know how this fucking thing works.
Right, and I'm like wearing amazing clothes. I'm like warm. I got like a cell phone. It's like,
yeah, and it was all built, and now we're just sitting here enjoying it. And like, but how are we going to? But like, here's what I feel like the previous generations would want is like, do some shit with this that will change the world. Like, we busted our asses to change our world. Now you have to utilize what's been put in front of you to change your world. Like, yeah.
That's interesting. I like that.
You know? It's like now, like they made the tools for us, and now we have them.
What are you going to do with those tools?
Yeah. What can we do with it? How can we move faster than the old guys? You know? They'd be happy to see us move faster. They're like, yeah, fuck yeah, go. Like, we busted our asses doing like things that just took 9 times as long. You know? And maybe we'll be saying the same thing with the next generation. Who knows? I don't know.
That's nice to think about.
Well, I guess that concludes this episode of On a Trip Podcast.
Yeah, seriously.
A little rambly.
Yeah, but it's like, I mean, it's a podcast.
Yeah.
I think it's easy to follow on. It's not like we were going on too many tangents. We like circled back. We made it all make sense. But yeah, if you have questions or like thoughts on that, or like you have like heck, if you're listening to this and you have a topic that you're curious about, like
email it.
Email it to us.
It's onatrippodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah.
That's our current contact. And like we said before, we'll be setting up like a Patreon page, and by the time you hear this, we'll have figured out iTunes and have that all set up. And we have the podcast is also on YouTube at On a Trip Podcast. If you just look that up on YouTube, it'll pop right up. yeah, that's it. I don't really know what else we have to say.
I think that's it. And yeah, we'd love to just leave us any comments, leave us feedback. We love feedback. Knowing how we can you know, what you liked, what you didn't like. Even tell us what you didn't like. Just be like, hey, I wish you wouldn't talk about this so much. Like, I wish Zaba would stop talking about his gray hair all the time. If you just want that,
wish Aleks would stop talking super fast and over his friend. Interrupting his friend so rudely.
I'm a good listener, so it's like I do this with all my friends. I'm just like, yeah, keep going, man.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
You're a great friend. Yeah, thanks for listening.
Appreciate it.
And I guess we'll sign off.
Yeah. Have a good trip.
I'm